Hey people, just before we get started, I just want to have a quick shout out to my good friend June, who is the most avid watcher of our daily devotionals. June has injured herself in her legs and her ankle, and June, we hope that you get well soon. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful follower of this devotional series. And we think of Steve and Lurdy, and you guys are awesome, man. So thank you for being so intentional about following us here. Good day to you. Now, we're talking about Jesus and the Mount of Temptation. The third temptation was Satan showed him the glory of the world, the splendor of everything, said he'd give it to Jesus. That's really arrogant. We said the other day that's arrogant because it didn't belong to Satan at all. Jesus made it, therefore he owns it. And we're talking about today what legitimate worship looks like. Because Jesus' command to Satan, when Satan said, if you just for 1 second, Jesus, bow down and worship me, I'll give you all of this. What he was really trying to say, I'll give you all this back, and I'll get out of your hair for a while. I'll leave you alone. But Jesus couldn't do that, could he? And so we see now how legitimate worship is part of who we need to be. When we look at the cerebral form of our faith, where we look at our faith through academic alone thinking. Nothing wrong with academic thinking, and I love the academics and the apologists amongst us who point us to truth and give us great opportunities to find out who he is through the beauty of the Word of God. That's wonderful. But if it just remains in your head, you've missed the point. Worship is an issue of the heart and the head together. We don't worship, stupidly. We don't worship as if we just kind of doing this for the sake of doing it. We worship because we understand a couple of things. Yesterday, we understand that God is who he is, and that's legitimate worship. That's authentic stuff. But I want to suggest to you today that worship, when we find it like this, can change your entire life. Worship is the most life-changing experience if we will allow it to be. So to those of you who just study for the sake of study, that's great. But once you find the God of your head, put him down in your heart and hear what I have to say today. I want to suggest to you that life or worship like this is a life-changing experience. I just think of the examples we used yesterday. Isaiah was never the same again when he saw Jesus. And he saw him high and lifted up and his train filling the temple. He was never the same again. He saw himself as he is, and he saw Jesus for who he was. He saw himself as the one who was unclean, of a nation of unclean people. And the angel took the coal. Go and read it, Isaiah. And I think it's chapter 6, and he touched the coal on his lips, and he was made pure. And it was just, he would never be the same ever again. Neither would you be after an experience like that. Moses too came to the burning bush as a gibbering idiot and someone who would do anything for anybody. He had a victim's mentality. He was thinking to himself, well, life has been tough on me and I don't have to do anything and I can't do anything. Send Aaron. And God changed his life that day at the burning bush. And Moses, as he was told to take his shoes off, his life was never, ever the same again. But for me today, one of the most beautiful stories of this would be found in Matthew chapter 27, where we see that Roman centurion declaring God for who he is, declaring that indeed this is the Son of God. You know where he was standing? He was standing looking at the cross at a dead Jesus. He saw Jesus die. He witnessed him. He heard those last claims of Christ, those last words that emanated from the mouth of Jesus as he hung upon the cross. He heard him say, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. He heard him crying out forgiveness to the people instead of condemnation and anger and hatred. Here he is shouting love to the people. And the centurion sat there and he watched this and he thought to himself, who is this man? Who is this man who could die like this? Surely this is no mere human being. And he came to a great conclusion. He must have looked at Jesus and said, surely this man is the Son of God. You see, he too, a cruel, Roman centurion who crucified people for a living. He had killed many, many people. And now as he watched Jesus die, he realized who he had just crucified. He realized who was the one on the cross there that had a spear stuck in his side and the one who had been whipped and a crown of thorns upon his head. He said, man, surely this is the Son of God. And surely it was. That centurion, I'm sure, was changed instantaneously as he uttered the beautiful words of worship, surely this man is the Son of God. That's an experience I wish everybody could have. His was dramatic. His was public. His is written about. Maybe yours won't ever be written about, but that doesn't illegitimize the fact that we need to have a similar experience. Surely Jesus is and always will be the Son of God. Man, I love that thought. You can have a good day, people. See you tomorrow. Bye.